Hi, I'm Barry Klein, owner and designer of Trendsetter Yarns. Welcome back to another Trendsetter Knitbit. We're going to show you some fun things to do with a new yarn that we've done called Orbit. And just when I think I can't come up with anything else, well, I worked with a factory, we played with fibers, and what we've done is one hank, continuous fibers, all different fibers, that are chained one right into the other. They're not knotted together. And what's even more fun about it is that it's really, really thick. It's created by using a regular yarn, and we've I-corded it. So it's chained circular to be nice and thick. And here's what we've got. Here's one whole skein of it. One skein will do a scarf, so let's get together and have some fun with it. You need to wind it. So if you break off the label, throw it on a yarn swift, and carefully wind it into a ball. So you open up the umbrella, pop it on there nice and tight, take your scissor, find your ties, and you just keep winding. Make sure you undo all of your ties, and just for safety's sake, nothing to keep it straight here, you're just going to wind it. But I always like to wrap around my label. That way the yarn's got some ease to it. Just check out all the beautiful fibers that are all in Orbit. It's really a great yarn. All different fibers woven one into the other. So I'm going to continue to wind it. You can see how the fibers come off one after the other. Come back and join me and I'll show you how to knit it. I'm just putting the last finishing touches on winding up the ball, and now it's time to knit Orbit. Here's what it looks like as a full skein. Because the yarn is chained, you don't want it to unravel. So I'm going to just take it and put an overhand knot right at the very end. That way it stays secure. For this yarn you only need 5 stitches. So you leave yourself a little tail, make a slip knot by wrapping it over your finger, pulling it through, and putting it right on the needle. Now these are huge needles. These are size 35s. Use 35s or 50s. If you go too small, it gets really, really stiff, and you want the fibers to be loose and open up. I'm just going to quickly cast on a total of 5 stitches. There's 2, 3, 4, 5. Keep it nice and loose so that you've got lots of elasticity as you knit. And for this, you really want the fibers to show. To make it show, you want to keep it easy. So I'm knitting, I'm wrapping my yarn over and coming through. And then I'm doing a yarn over. So I'm taking the yarn and wrapping it over my needle so it's away from me and ready to knit the next stitch. I go and knit my next stitch and repeat. Yarn over, knit the next stitch, yarn over, knit the next stitch, yarn over, and knit the next stitch. It's as simple as that. That's knitting Orbit. When you come back, you want to make sure that you get rid of those yarn overs. If you don't, you've added stitches, and we don't want extra stitches, we just want long, easy stitches. So now I'm going to knit one, and we're just going to take that yarn over and drop it off the needle. Don't panic, it's not going to go anywhere. Knit my next stitch, and pop the next yarn over off. Knit one, drop one, knit one, drop one, knit one. And I still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches. And if you take your knitting and you pull on it, you can see you've got elongated stitches right here. That's it. It's a 2-row pattern, and we'll have a free pattern on the website for you. TrendsetterYarns.com/knit Orbit. And there'll be a little downloadable pattern there for you. So I'm going to continue to work on this. Come back and join me and I'll show you how to crochet it and to knit by hand if you don't want to use knitting needles. You can also have some fun crocheting with Orbit, letting each of the fibers move and change as you chain or crochet the yarn. Again, we're working with really big, thick yarn, so you need big hooks. I've got a Q or an S, and I'm going to use the S hook today because I want my stitches nice and loose. Wrap the yarn over your finger, create a slip knot, and put it right on the crochet hook. And all I'm going to do to start is crochet a chain. Wrap the yarn over the mouth of the hook and come through. Nice and simple. Over the mouth of the hook and come through, over the mouth and come through. And just crochet a length, whatever the length is that you want for your scarf, your wrap, or your shawl. Again, keep it nice and simple. I like doing loops when I do this yarn. So to do a loop scarf, I've got my chain, I create my loop as long as I want it, I go into the second stitch from my hook, come through, and pull up another stitch. There's my loop. You can adjust it to the length that you want. I now have 2 stitches on the hook. I go through the mouth and come through both to lock it. Come over the mouth one more time and chain 1. Skip the next stitch, go into the next one. Go in, leave my loop, come up and pull it through. I can adjust my chain to be the same length. I now have 2 stitches yet again. Come over, go through 1, 2 to lock it, and give myself a chain 1. And it's a really great process. Gives you a nice, loose, easy knit. And what you have when you're done is this chained scarf. You've got a nice, simple chained base with lots of loops. And I did my loops of all different sizes and all different lengths. And you can see how the fibers move along through the yarn. Really great. You can wrap this around, it could be trimmed, just a really fun accessory. So I'm going to continue working on the one that I just started. Come back and join me and I'll show you what to do next. As you can see, here's what happens when you have a whole finished piece that's been crocheted with loops. It's great. You can take it and wear it like that. You can wear it around your body. It's just a really great piece. Great for anybody. Kids have a blast with this yarn as well. When we started, I showed you how to knit it in garter stitch. And here's a sample piece of it, all knit in garter stitch. You get big elongated stitches, you get the fiber changes, and it's just a really great scarf. You take it and you throw it around. A nice, great patchwork scarf. You can also mix it with other yarns. In this case, we've done it with a yarn called Segway, which is a really wide ribbon that makes fantastic fringe. So it's mixed in 4 rows of Orbit, 2 rows of Segway, but also keep that same stitch pattern. Knit 1 yarn over across the row. When you come back, drop those yarn overs and they won't go anywhere. If indeed you don't knit, but you want to have some fun with the yarn, you can hand knit without using knitting needles. And this is the effect that you get. You get really big open stitches, almost like mesh, and I'm going to show you how to do it. You take your yarn, I take it and just drop it on the floor. I make my slip knot, I pull up a really big loop, but this time instead of my knitting needle, it goes on my wrist. And just like knitting, we have to put on extra stitches. So I use my hands as my knitting needles. I put my fingers through, I pick up 1 more stitch, I bring it through, twist it once, and put it right back on my hand. I now have 2 stitches. Now I go between my stitches, pick up 1 more, come through, twist it once, pop it on. I'm going to put on 5 stitches doing the same method. Come through, pick it up, put it on. There's 4 and 1 more. Kind of feels weird until you get the hang of it. You come through, pick it up, twist it, and pop it on. I now have 5 loops over my wrist and my knitting is now cast on. And from here, again, no knitting needles, but you use your hands like knitting needles. So I'm going to take my right hand, come through towards me, through the stitch, pick up the yarn, bring it through, and put it on my right hand. 1 stitch on, 1 stitch off. Come through, pick up my yarn, bring up a loop, 1 stitch on, 1 stitch off. And I'm just going to repeat that process all the way across the row. 1 on, 1 off. Don't worry about fiber changes, just let the fiber change. 1 on, 1 off, come through the last one, 1 on, 1 off. And there you go. 1 row is knit, and you can see nice, long, big stitches. And now, because you have to go back in the other direction, you do exactly the same thing. You go through your stitches, pick up your yarn, come through, 1 stitch on, 1 stitch off. This time, instead of coming towards yourself, you're going away from yourself. So I'm going through, picking up my loop, putting it on my hand, 1 on, 1 off. Come through, pick up my yarn, 1 on, 1 off. So I'm just going to continue doing this, finish up my yarn. And again, join us at Trendsetter Yarns. If you view our website, there'll be a little video there for you for many other things, and a printed pattern where you can go and knit and enjoy Orbit and many of the other fun things that Trendsetter Yarns has to offer. Thanks for joining us.